In the small, dilapidated house at the edge of town, John lived alone, his days consumed by the monotony of solitude and the persistent decay that surrounded him. The creaking floorboards and the faint whispers of the wind through the cracked windows were his only companions, weaving a symphony of loneliness that echoed through the forgotten corridors. The town had long turned its back on the existence of the house, as if it were a mere blemish on the canvas of the community. The thick layer of dust on the furniture spoke of years of abandonment, and the overgrown vines outside clawed at the windows like nature reclaiming what had been forsaken. As the clock struck midnight each night, an eerie stillness settled over the house, casting a haunting atmosphere that seemed to thicken the air. It was during these nocturnal hours that John began to notice something peculiar in the antique mirror that hung in the hallway, its ornate frame dulled by time. A shadowy figure, barely distinguishable in the dim light, materialized each night, standing just beyond the reflection of the room. At first, John dismissed it as a trick of his tired eyes, a result of the isolation that had settled in the corners of his mind. But as the nights passed, the figure became more defined, its silhouette growing darker and more ominous. No matter how hard he tried, John could not see it when he turned around. It existed only in the mirror, an entity tethered to the glass. It seemed to feed on the darkness that permeated the house, growing stronger with each passing night. Sleep eluded John, and his once sturdy nerves began to fray under the relentless assault of the mysterious apparition. Driven by a mix of curiosity and fear, one evening, John decided to confront the phantom directly. With hesitant steps, he turned to face the mirror, determined to catch a glimpse of the shadowy intruder. As he peered into the glass, the figure seemed to writhe and contort, its form shifting like smoke. It mocked him with an unsettling, silent laughter that sent shivers down his spine. A cold chill ran down John's spine, and he stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet. The figure vanished instantly, leaving behind an empty reflection of the dimly lit hallway. John's heart raced and beads of sweat formed on his forehead as he tried to comprehend the inexplicable presence that haunted him. Night after night, the mysterious figure tormented John, always lurking in the mirror, but vanishing whenever he tried to confront it directly. Desperation clawed at his sanity as he researched the history of the house, hoping to find answers to the malevolent force that had taken residence in his reflection. The more John learned, the more he realized that the house held a dark secret. Decades ago, a malevolent spirit had claimed the lives of those who dwelled within its walls. The restless soul sought companionship in the living, and its presence grew stronger with each passing night. One fateful evening, as the clock struck midnight, John gathered the courage to face the spectral figure one last time. Armed with ancient incantations and symbols meant to banish malevolent entities, he stood before the mirror, reciting the words with trembling lips. The room grew colder, and a gust of wind rattled the windows. The figure in the mirror contorted in agony, its silent wails echoing through the hallway. John pressed on, determined to free himself from the clutches of the vengeful spirit that had claimed so many before him. Suddenly, the figure let out a blood-curdling scream, shattering the silence of the house. The mirror cracked, sending shards of glass flying across the room. The oppressive presence lifted, leaving behind an eerie calm. As John caught his breath, he realized the sacrifice he had narrowly escaped. The malevolent spirit was gone, but the price paid for its banishment was etched into the shattered mirror. The reflection of the hallway now held a distorted image of John, his eyes haunted by the horrors he had faced. In the stillness of the night, the house remained silent, a testament to the darkness that lurked within its walls. The old mirror, now shattered and discarded, bore witness to the struggles of a lone soul who dared to confront the shadows that haunted him. The townspeople, oblivious to the battle fought within the dilapidated house, The night was dark and moonless as John Reynolds drove down the desolate stretch of highway, surrounded by dense woods on either side. The only source of light came from his car's headlights, cutting through the impenetrable darkness like a knife. An eerie silence enveloped the area, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. John couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over him since he left the last town. The road seemed to stretch on forever, with no signs of life or civilization in sight. He kept glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see phantom shapes lurking in the shadows. As he drove deeper into the night, a dense fog rolled in, further obscuring his vision. The air turned icy, and a chill crawled up John's spine. Despite the increasing unease, he pressed on, hoping to reach the next town soon. That's when he saw her. A faint figure materialized at the edge of the road, bathed in the ghostly glow of his headlights. John squinted, trying to make sense of the apparition. It was a woman, dressed in a tattered and blood-stained gown. Her long, disheveled hair hung like a curtain, obscuring her face. She stood motionless, staring into the distance with hollow eyes. As John approached, the air seemed to thicken with an otherworldly energy. Goosebumps prickled across his skin, and his heart quickened. He couldn't tear his eyes away from the haunting figure. It was as if an invisible force compelled him to stop. Against his better judgment, John pulled over to the side of the road. The headlights cast an eerie glow on the spectral figure as he stepped out of the car, the engine still idling. The fog clung to the air, creating an almost suffocating atmosphere. "Hello," John called out, his voice swallowed by the vast emptiness. The figure remained motionless, an unsettling silence hanging in the air. Suddenly, the ghostly woman turned toward him, her face still hidden beneath the veil of hair. A guttural moan emanated from her, sending shivers down John's spine. Panic gripped him, but he couldn't move. It was as if an invisible force held him in place. With each step he took closer, the figure seemed to grow more malevolent. The air became thick with a putrid stench, and the temperature plummeted. The woman's face finally emerged from the shadows, revealing a twisted visage, pale and lifeless. Hollow eyes stared into John's soul, and a chilling smile played on her lips. A sudden realization struck him: the ghost was not alone. From the darkness emerged more ethereal figures, each more horrifying than the last. They closed in on John, their moans merging into an unearthly chorus. Fear paralyzed him as he stood surrounded by the undead. In a final desperate attempt to escape, John turned to run back to his car. But the once idling engine now roared to life, its headlights glaring with an unnatural intensity. The ghostly figures advanced, their malevolent intent palpable. The car accelerated on its own, hurtling toward John. He screamed, but his cries were drowned out by the deafening roar of the engine. The headlights bore down on him, and in an instant, the world went black. The next morning, a passerby discovered John's abandoned car at the edge of the desolate highway. The engine still idled, headlights piercing the lingering fog. There was no sign of John Reynolds, only an unsettling stillness in the air, as if the night itself held its breath, haunted by the echoes of a malevolent encounter on a desolate road. In the heart of the quaint college town, nestled among the towering trees and whispering winds, stood an old library. Its aged facade were the marks of time like scars, each crack and crevice a testament to the years it had weathered. Inside, the air hung heavy with the scent of aging paper and the faint echo of footsteps long forgotten. It was a late autumn evening when Emily, a diligent college student, found herself immersed in the dimly lit aisles of the library. She had been chasing a deadline for her research paper, determined to uncover every last detail before the clock struck midnight. With her laptop glowing softly in the darkness, she delved deeper into the dusty tomes, her fingers trailing over the spines as if searching for a secret entrance to hidden knowledge. As the hours ticked by and the world outside grew quiet, Emily became acutely aware of the eerie stillness that settled over the library like a shroud. The only sound was the steady rhythm of her own breathing, punctuated by the occasional creak of the old wooden floorboards beneath her feet. She brushed off the chill that crept up her spine and forced herself to focus on her work, dismissing the unsettling feeling that she was not alone. But then, from the shadows of the farthest corner of the library, a soft whisper reached her ears. At first, Emily convinced herself it was merely the wind playing tricks on her mind, but as the whisper grew louder, she could make out distinct words, cold and haunting. "Leave this place," it murmured, the voice raspy and filled with a chilling urgency. Emily froze, her heart pounding in her chest as she scanned the empty aisles, searching for the source of the voice. But the library remained deserted, the only movement the flickering of the ancient fluorescent lights overhead. Summoning her courage, Emily forced herself to stand and cautiously made her way toward the source of the whisper. With each step, the air grew colder, sending shivers down her spine. She rounded a corner and stumbled upon a forgotten alcove, hidden from view by towering bookshelves. In there, in the dim light, she saw it. A figure cloaked in shadow, its features obscured by darkness. Its eyes, twin pools of endless blackness, seemed to pierce through her very soul, freezing her in place with fear. "Who are you?" Emily managed to choke out, her voice trembling. But the figure remained silent, its presence suffocating in its malevolence. Terrified, Emily turned to flee. But before she could take a single step, a cold hand gripped her shoulder with an iron grip. She screamed, the sound echoing through the empty library as she struggled against the unseen force that held her in its grasp. And then, with a sudden burst of unearthly strength, the figure lunged forward, its spectral form merging with hers in a twisted dance of death. Emily's screams turned to gurgles as she felt the icy fingers of the ghostly presence wrap around her throat, squeezing the life from her with relentless force. And in the depths of the old library, among the dusty tomes and forgotten whispers, Emily's lifeless body slumped to the floor, a silent testament to the horrors that lurked within its walls. And as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the library remained unchanged, its secrets buried deep within its ancient halls, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim to uncover its chilling truth. As the morning sun bathed the college town in a soft, golden glow, a sense of foreboding hung in the air. The library, once a sanctuary of knowledge, now held the lingering residue of a spectral encounter. Students and faculty alike approached the weathered building with a cautious curiosity, unaware of the darkness concealed within its walls.